we don't need the microphone or the ghetto blasters or anything like that. Just apologies, I had a bit of difficulty finding the room as well. I didn't realise the Oblates was so big and had so many little annexes. There are some people who'll be joining the meeting who just got a little bit delayed, but hopefully that won't disrupt the meeting too much. Thanks very much everyone for coming out. It's not a great night, it's a little bit showery out there. We could have had it outdoors if we had a little bit of that sun we had yesterday, but I think that's gone till next year perhaps. My name is Paul Shields. I'm the chairperson of the Ballyfermot branch of People Before Profit. I'm sure most people here probably know me. Hopefully everyone will get to know me by the end of the meeting. I know there's a lot of household tax campaigners here. I know there's faces here we've seen in other campaigns, SMAs and home helps and all sorts of stuff. Thanks very much, as I said, for turning out to listen to what we have to say here today. I think it's a very appropriate time to have this meeting. It's quite funny, I just realised when I came in, I've worked with both members of the panel over the last 6-7 years, but I've never actually presented a forum, been on a platform with both of them together. I think that's kind of unusual. I'm going to introduce the panel. Kieran, who's on your left, obviously that's the male contender in the group. Kieran is the branch president of my branch, the education branch, albeit from a much lesser university in Dublin. I've worked with Kieran for many years on several initiatives within the trade union movement and several initiatives to try and push the trade union movement into some kind of accident-dependent workers and working class people. An uphill battle. An uphill battle, and I'm sure we'll be fighting many campaigns for years to come. And we obviously have Councillor Brid who I deal with on a daily basis on campaigns, and I'm sure everybody knows the campaign.
Calls me boss.
This is the boss, this is the gaffer. The campaigns that we're involved in and that we want to push forward and get people involved in at this very, very crucial time in the history of this country. So I'm going to let Kieran speak first. We're breaking with tradition here. We're going to let the guests go forward, and delighted we are to have them. And when Kieran and Brid have finished giving their presentation, we'll be taking all sorts of very interesting questions. I tell you, I can't wait to hear these questions being fielded myself. I'm looking forward to this. So listen, give a big welcome to Kieran Allen.
The title of the meeting is After the Fiscal Treaty, Which Way for the Left and Resistance, right? Let me just start with the Fiscal Treaty. I think sometime back in January or February, the people in whatever cabinet or government circle they meet, they sat down together and said, how are we going to beat these characters, right? And they came up with a very simple strategy, which was, anytime you get them on the television, or anytime you have them at a meeting, ask them, where will the money come from, right? And throughout the whole campaign, that's the only thing they talked about. Where will if you vote no, the ATM machines will seize up. What are you lot going to do in terms of where the money will come from? Now, I was on the television once or twice. You get this question, where will the money come from? And you try the argument, but you didn't ask the other lot, where's the cuts going to come from? Why you come back to me all the time? You're never going to ask them, where's the cuts going to come from? And normally you're given about 2 minutes to answer it, right? And you try to give two answers. First answer is that, listen, this country has about 90 billion stuffed into banks. It's not our debts. We should immediately cancel that debt, and that means we'd have 7 billion, that's a lot of money, 7 billion to spare next year to spend on health, education and so on. Simple answer. If you don't think that's enough, we should go after the wealthy people. And then you say to you, but there are no wealthy people in Ireland. And then you say, but you look at Dennis O'Brien. Dennis O'Brien is worth, he's now worth 3.5 billion himself. He says he doesn't live in the country, but he's got 3 houses in Dublin 4. He sends his kids to a private school in Dublin 4, pays 5,000 euros a year to send them there. Of course there's money in the country, and of course they can be taxed. Now, we made some I won't repeat the arguments, we made some very simple and straightforward arguments. But the reality is we didn't convince people. And the reason I think we didn't convince people is that, to put it very simply, the level of resistance in Ireland is only starting. If you compare, for example, Greece to Ireland, in Greece they're now on 15 general strikes. They've just taken a group like the United Left Alliance. They'll probably become the main party in the government in Greece next week. Huge resistance in Greece. In Spain you've had millions of people, 1 million people marched in Spain in what they call the indignant movement. And in Ireland, it only really started after Christmas. It started really when the penny dropped with people that, listen, they're going to go after us in the household charges campaign, and then all the best traditions of rebelliousness and good ways of organising in the Irish working class came to the fore. And the household charges campaign was the biggest campaign this country has seen in 10, 20, I haven't seen anything bigger in 10, 20 years. You know, you go, I mean, for example, I went down to a meeting in Moat. I'm from Galway. Normally just fly through Moat on your way to Galway. You find there's 30 people in Moat. They're hanging together, they're well organised, and they're out there campaigning on the fiscal treaty. So a brilliant form of resistance was the household charges campaign. And a second type of resistance had just begun, which is that workers, having been beaten down, usually by the terrible leadership in people like Jack O'Connor in situ, had begun to stand up for themselves. In Vita Cortex, in La Senza down the road, a number of people occupied their jobs. So the resistance had just begun in Ireland. But the problem is, it had just begun, and it was still pretty weak. So when socialists appear on television and say, listen, let's get after the rich, most people think, well, we can't really do that. We're just about surviving, we're just about hanging on. It's not realistic. And therefore, they managed to get away with it, and they bullied us. They, if you like, Trump, as somebody put it, fear outweighed anger, and people went because we're frightened, they didn't think they were confident we could do it, and people in reality voted yes. Now, I would say the vote on the fiscal treaty is a setback, and it's going to mean suffering for people. I mean, all the things we said during the campaign, we're not just making this up. When you want, for example, a decent health service, or you want better facilities for your kids in schools, they're going to come around and say to you, you voted for this, now our hands are tied behind our back. So it is a setback. But we also have said, this is really what I want to suggest tonight, is although it was a setback, it's not a huge defeat for us, and it's only going to give Fine Gael and Labour a temporary fillip. And why do I say that? And I want to really try to explain that by what happened really after we voted yes. Two things happened really the day after we voted yes. The first was they took Phil Hogan out of the box. Somebody had a cartoon where, you know, he's in a big dark box, he sees a bit of light, said, let me out, and they let him out the day after the referendum. Now, and the second thing that happened was, I'll come to this afterwards, Spain. Now, all the news about Spain, the financial crisis in Spain, came true, and that meant that all the talk about stability, forget it, that's gone. Once you hear about Spain, you know it's gone. Now, let me just come back to the question of Phil Hogan. Why did they take Phil Hogan out of the box? They took him out of the box because everybody knows Phil Hogan's a bully boy. Right? He looks like a bully boy, he acts like a bully boy, he is a bully boy, right? And I'm not just saying being personal about that, but you have to understand what he is. He is the hatchet man of Ennikenny. He is the fundraiser for Fine Gael, right? He's the guy that goes around to business people and says, give us a donation. You know what that means, a donation, in this country. He is a guy, for example, that, I mean, just I'm interested in this in the Ringsend area. People in Ringsend are against the building of an incinerator. Hogan is in with people who want to build that incinerator. I can't prove it, but I reckon his chief advisor, for example, was a consultant for Coventa, the people who are trying to build the incinerator. This man is exactly like Michael Lowry, another former fundraiser for Fine Gael, right? He's exactly the same. Unfortunately, we probably hear about in 5-10 years when the damage has been done. But these are bully boys who are intent on carrying out attacks on working class people. And what they're going to do, let's be very clear about it, once the referendum is out of the way, they are going to start attacking us in a big, big, big way. First thing, and Brid will talk more about this, they're going to send personalised letters to as many every house they can get hold of, saying you have to pay your debt. And they're going to make it look like it's a debt collector. And they're going to try to frighten people. That's what they're going to do on the household charges. It's going to start probably in August. They are going to close down, we know this because the Business Post has written all this stuff a week or two ago. They have a list of hospitals. Now, they're mainly outside Dublin at the moment, as I understand it. They're going to close these small hospitals. If you're a public sector worker, anybody's a public sector worker, if you work in a hospital or whatever, your pay is made up of your basic pay, but also you get certain allowances that have been built up by trade unions over the years. They're going to come after those allowances, and they're going to try to slash those allowances. That's what they're going to do over the next number of months. And that's, when Hogan turns up again, you know they're about getting ready for battle. Now, we have to understand something about Fine Gael. It's important to know your enemy, and it's also important to know their weaknesses. Fine Gael was originally in Ireland a party of the big farmers, the barristers, the well-heeled people. Don't agree with Fianna Fáil, don't agree with them at all, they're a corrupt party and so on, but they had much more support amongst working class people. Over the years they had more support amongst working class people. And they had a base in working class areas. Fine Gael never had that to the same extent. And they're much more similar to the, if you like, to the Tory party in Britain, the Thatcherites, you know, blatant class hatred without having a base in the working class. And this means they're much weaker than the party like Fianna Fáil, and if you like, once people start resisting them, they, I think, will buckle when they see the resistance coming from working class people. Okay, the second thing that's important is what happened in Spain. And here, I don't want to go into all this economic speak, because we've had a lot of it in the referendum, but put it very, very simply, what's happening in Spain? It's the Celtic tiger multiplied by 100. That's really what it is. What happened there was cheap money, cheap credit, came from Germany. You could borrow at low rates of interest. Wealthy people and ordinary people could borrow. And what you had then was a massive building boom, exactly the same as here, flats everywhere, speculation, and now it has crashed down. Unlike Ireland, for all sorts of complicated reasons, they haven't, if you like, owned up yet to the scale of the bad debts in the banks. But it is huge. It is absolutely huge. And what this means is that the euro, they have a big decision to make now. Is Germany and the wealthy in Germany going to put huge amounts of money into shoring up Spain and maybe Italy, or are they not going to do it? And to be honest with you, I don't know what they're going to do, and I don't think they know what they're going to do. They are terrified both ways. They are terrified of what's actually happening in Europe today. And therefore, from the point of view of working people, how should we look on this? And I think you have to see this as something very, very dramatic. This is probably the most dramatic thing that is happening in our lifetime. If the euro stays, and I don't know if it is or isn't, right? But if it stays, everything that's in the fiscal treaty, we said about the fiscal treaty, that there will be a United States of Europe created, that it'll be much less democratic than even the type of democracy we have in Ireland, and that's not saying a lot. There will be people sitting there with charts and diagrams, working out exactly what wages you should get, how much should be spent on your hospital, and they'll be saying, cut, cut, cut. That's the future of Europe if the euro stays. We should be, there's no doubt what that means. I mean, a simple example. I mean, one of the things I was most shocked by last year was how the government got through the Dáil without any opposition, the fact that the retirement age is to be increased to 68. Right? I'm over 50, right? I'm lucky. But any of you there under 50, you're going to have to work with your 68. You won't get a pension, you won't get a state pension on your 68, right? They ran that through without a word being spoken. But the funny thing is, that happens in every single country in Europe. Every single country in Europe raised their retirement age to 68. Why? Because behind the Dáil or parliaments, there are these committees sitting there now with their charts and their diagrams, and working out competitiveness and all this stuff, and they're saying, we have to make them work until 68. And that's what's going to happen if the euro stays. More of that's our direction. And if the euro goes, what does it mean?